Alrighty, we are live. I will pass off to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Welcome to the Lyon Township Planning Commission meeting for Monday, September 28th, the year of 2020. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States
of America,
and to the
the
republic
republic for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice
for all.
for all. Okay, very good. Was Kelly here? I didn't see her. Kelly?
I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, hi. If you could take roll, please.
Sure. Patricia Carconi,
Here.
Jim Chuck,
Here.
Michael Conflitti,
Here,
Kurt Radke,
Kurt's on mute.
Here, sorry about that.
that's okay, and Carl Town.
Here.
Okay, we have a motion to excuse Mr. Pennington.
I'll make a motion to excuse.
Support.
Okay, motion.
I'd
by
also
Mr.
like to add
Chuck.
Stephen Hoffman.
Yeah, he's no longer on the planning commission.
Well, so we're going to take, you've gotten notification of that?
Verbal, I haven't seen anything in writing.
Okay, I mean, if you don't think that we should excuse him, then I'm good with that.
Lisa?
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, all right. Then I'll be with excusing Mr. Pennington. Kelly, if you take roll, please.
Michael Conflitti,
Yes.
Carl Town,
Yes,
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Patricia Carconi.
Yes.
All right, very good. Approval of tonight's agenda.
make a motion to approve. This is Carl.
Support.
Support.
Who supported?
I was one.
Mr. Chuck can have this one.
Okay, Mr. Chuck support. Kelly, if you take roll on that, please.
Sure. Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti,
Yes.
Carl Town,
Yes,
Patricia Carconi,
Yes.
Kurt Radke.
Yes.
Approval of consent agenda, September 14th, 2020 minutes.
make a motion to approve. This is Carl.
Support. This is Kurt.
Okay. Any other comments? Kelly, if you take roll.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Patricia Carconi,
Yes.
Carl Town,
Yes,
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti.
Yes. Alex, do we have any that would like to speak? Comments from the public? Anything that's not on the agenda tonight?
There are no callers waiting.
Okay. All right. Very good. Tina, I see you.
Yes. Hi. How is everyone this
Hi.
evening?
Good. How are you?
Good. Okay. I have a couple of things to update you all on. First of all, we have two new appointed DDA board members. They were appointed at the September Township Board meeting. The first one is Dr. Paula Ruffin. For those who might not know her, she is a person who's owned a 20-year office in our downtown. And our second new board member is Carissa Canfield. Carissa has been in our area for 5 years, and she is the owner of the Big B Coffee in the New Hudson downtown Lyon Township area. Both are very engaged in the community and in volunteerism, and they are very eager to get on board and start contributing to the DDA. So we're going to be excited to have them join us. I just want to remind everyone that our next DDA board meeting is on October 14th, which is a Wednesday. Typically, we meet on Tuesdays, but there are a couple times this year in the calendar year, either from a holiday or due to the election, that pushes us off into a Wednesday. So next month's meeting will be on a Wednesday. So I just want to make that clear. Also, a couple things. We celebrated a groundbreaking ceremony for NLB Corporation. That was held on September 24th, and Patty and I, as well as Michelle and PJ from the office, were in attendance. And as you know, they'll be constructing a 170,000 square foot building on the former property where Brainer's Nursery was. Also, we're still promoting our Show Your Love for Lying campaign. This is our Shop Local, Dine Local, Support Small Business campaign. We are also still selling t-shirts and face masks. So if anyone's interested in learning more about that campaign, they can go to the township homepage and click on the Show Your Love for Lion link. Also, for the first time, we're actually hosting a Scarecrow Contest. We thought this would be a great year to kick that off. The contest will be for the month of October. It is open to businesses, organizations, groups, churches, schools, whoever would like to get involved. And we have information on our Facebook page, the downtown Facebook page, as well as the township website. So there's an entry form, there's some rules and guidelines to follow, and there's a map on where the scarecrows can be placed. So we're looking forward to seeing a nice display for this autumn season. And we also have secured a second annual historical walking tour. That'll be on October 16th. Tickets are going to be available on Eventbrite. And as soon as that information is posted, we'll go ahead and get that up so that folks can sign up. Anyone who attends that historical walking tour will get a free copy of our History of Lyon Township book. So we're looking forward to hosting that again. And then just a reminder that this coming weekend, October 2nd through the 4th, is Buy Nearby weekend. And this is sponsored by the by the Michigan Retailers Association. And they're going to be holding a contest. And again, it's just another effort to try to encourage people to shop and dine local in our downtown areas and support our small businesses. And with that, that concludes my report.
Good. Any questions for Tina? Do you know, will there be trick or treating this year in Lyon Township? Or is that, in the state for that matter, I guess?
Yeah, there's been a few things from the state of Michigan and health departments encouraging people not to trick or treat, but there has been no rule against it. So I think they're trying to encourage people not to have large gatherings. There are still some rules in place. There was a new executive order issued on Friday that did free up a little bit more leeway for outdoor gatherings, but that's still something that is just not being encouraged at this time. I do know that the city that normally has a trick-or-treating event where families can go door to door to all the businesses, that has been canceled. So we've not had anything like that here in the township, but we certainly want people to be safe and to make sound decisions.
The fire department has canceled their event this year for Halloween. They usually have that nice Halloween party, but they have canceled that also. For FYI.
Okay. All right. Too bad. All right. Thanks, Tina. Anything else? That was all. She's muted out. Okay. Thank you. Let's see who we have. Chris, if you'd start us off, old business AP 20-04 event barns.
Thank you.
Text amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if it's okay, I'm going to share my screen and show you the map that I know Brian sent out that he prepared based on your last conversation. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I know that you all have spent the last few meetings discussing the idea of the events barn ordinance. And Brian prepared a memo for you with some updates based on the conversation that you had last time, as well as preparing this map. And so I'm just going to start with the updates that he made based on your conversation, then we can move over to the map and kind of a larger discussion, I think. So just the second half of the memo has draft regulations, and the ones that have changed specifically based on your comments was the minimum size lot to 30 acres. Number 3 is paved roads. The site shall have access from a paved road. Going down to number 8, there's a new section on food prep and disposal. It requires the method of anticipated food and beverage preparation to be presented as part of the plan. And then number 9 alcohol, requiring a liquor license be acquired for any of the alcoholic services on site. Additionally, I think that he proposed a change to the name of the use from events barns to rural event facility, and updated the definition on that accordingly. So this is a map that he prepared for the commission, showing different parcels in the township, from 20 acres in yellow, or 20 to 30 acres in the yellowish color, and then 30 to 40 in the bluish color, and over 40 in the purple. And so I think it's good for everyone to see. The one I have is one he shared just before the meeting with me, which the streets in black are all paved, which is one of your new requirements. And so he wanted you to see that and to see which parcels would be available in what parts of the township, and do they have access to the roads? And so I think it's important to kind of just take a bigger look. Not all of these are going to be available. Obviously the one in the right-hand corner is the golf course, and the one that he wanted me to highlight to you, which I think is kind of will help lead into points that Lisa has brought up the past week, is these parcels over here in the Irwin section. So obviously these are going to be developed into something. They're not going to stay as they are forever. And some of them would fall into the category, or they would fall into the category of a specific events barn use. However, something that Lisa pointed out quite accurately, I think, since the last meeting, is that currently in the R10 district, we have an agritourism use, which is permitted by right. And it seems to be that events or event barns or rural event facilities could be permitted as an accessory use to those agritourism uses currently. And so, looking at our ordinance, I think today, under the right, if agritourism is established in the R10 district, these type of event facilities could be put there as a permitted by right use, as an accessory use to those agritourism, the overall under the agritourism umbrella. And so I think it's important to have a conversation. And I know Lisa prepared a memo, so I won't jump all over her talking points, but if I think it's important to have a discussion, are event barns something that are a standalone use by themselves with separate standards, or do we apply the standards that Brian has amended for you all and put them into the agritourism use in the R10 district, so that today, where they would otherwise be permitted, going forward, they would have to follow these rules? So sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but just a general overview of the memo and talking points that were prepared for you. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. I did have one question on the regulations. Minimum lot width is 300.
Mm-hmm.
And to get calculations, to get a 30-acre parcel, it'd have to be 4,500 feet long. Just so I have some context, what's the width of Dandy Acres? Do you know offhand with their property?
I don't, but I am happy to, if you want to continue this conversation, it's something that I could look up for you in the next couple minutes.
And I'm wondering if, it seems like everyone's happy with 30 acres. I don't know, but 300 feet.
Dandy Acres is 200 feet.
200?
Width, yeah.
Okay, width. Okay.
I do know that.
Okay. So is and one of the complaints was with the dogs at the 200 feet, the noise. If 300 is enough, that would have to be a pretty long parcel. And looking at the map, I don't know, the point might be mute anyway. There's not too many long, narrow parcels there, but okay. Patty, you want to start?
Mike, that's a good point, though. If there's a 400 or 500 foot wide parcel, 30 acres or 300 acres, if there's houses on either side, it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be, what we're trying to do is have some distance between the event for the music and stuff
Right.
so I think that's a good point. We should consider a minimum width maybe.
Possibly, yeah, something wider than that.
What would be, does anybody know what 30 square acres, how many feet that would be?
Yes, 1143 by 1143. That'd be 30 square.
Thank you.
90 acres is long and narrow. Actually, it's
Right.
10 acres. But, the people that live around it complain all the time to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Constantly.
Yeah.
So you think it's 200 feet by the length, it's really long and narrow. If you put 3 of those together, is that enough distance for, you think it's barking dogs, but this is music and dancing and, ceremonies and.
Right. Yep. Well, yeah, that might, 300 doesn't sound enough, but.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I could just jump in on a couple items before the commission starts talking.
Sure.
I provided you with some information on some ordinances that are addressing some similar issues to what you've been discussing. I think as you move forward with that, keep in mind the purpose of the R1 district, which is a low density residential district with agricultural use. And the intent is that the agricultural use and the residential uses can coexist peacefully. So that's the whole intent of that zoning district. So keep that in mind as you're moving forward. And as Chris was saying, most of these event barn type facilities, the vast majority are done as an agricultural, agritourism type use, which means the property is being used for agricultural purposes. So when you talk about 20 acres or 30 acres of property, that property is being used for a farm or a vineyard or some kind of agricultural use. And then the event barn is an ancillary incidental use to that. Really, the purpose of that is to help the barn or the farm generate it some extra income so it can keep its operations open. So that's the typical way we see this. This ordinance that you're considering separates the use out from any kind of agricultural use of the property, which is a little bit unusual. Brighton Township has done that. That's one of the ordinances I gave you. Their ordinance is new, so they don't have any way to gauge whether it's working or not. But keep in mind, when you start talking about 30 acres of property, the property owner has to be able to use that 30 acres. So we don't want to restrict their use of that property to just a very small portion of it and render the rest of it unusable. So there's got to be a way for those property owners to use it.
For example, what would be an example?
Well, an example of that, like I said, it would generally be an agricultural use. Okay. So these properties, I'd say probably 95% of this kind of event barn use is an agritourism where the property itself is being used for agricultural purposes. So it's being farmed or it's a vineyard or something like that.
Lisa, would 3-seaters, is this 3-seaters or 6-seaters?
Yeah, 3-seaters.
3-seaters, yeah. That would be an example where they have farming going on. They have a barn, they have square dances or father-daughter dances. Yeah. They have a store in the barn. Yeah. But there's farming going on at the same time.
Exactly. So it's being used for agricultural purposes as an active farm. And then they've got a barn where they rent out just to help generate some extra money. Now you've got that mechanism in place in your zoning ordinance because your zoning ordinance for the R1 district allows agritourism type uses. So with some tweaks, you could have an event barn facility as an agritourism use, but it would be connected with, a farming operation or some kind of agricultural use of the property. So you already have that mechanism in your zoning ordinance where you could do that if you wanted.
Well, Lisa, question for you. If this couple or if a business wants to start, they're not farmers, they need 30 acres so they can meet the requirement, but all they want is a barn for weddings. Are you saying that we can't do that because they've got to farm first and then the barn is secondary?
Not the way you're doing it. The way you're doing it, you're separating out the event barn from any kind of agricultural use. So under the ordinance you're considering, they don't have to farm the property or have a vineyard or have any kind of agricultural use to the property. So they could have an event barn. You just have to start balancing, when does it become a commercial operation in an agricultural residential district versus, you know, if it was being used as the agritourism type use. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I think that I think that as we proposed it, that is absolutely true. And if you were interested in folding this into the existing agritourism use, then the scenario in which you described could be true, where they would have to establish the agritourism use because the events would be secondary to that. And so it's really, I think, a discussion for you all whether you would like to keep the events as a separate use or fold them into the agritourism as Lisa described.
But what if the property doesn't adhere to, what if it's wooded property and there's no agriculture?
Yeah, so under our current agritourism use, there are a number of things that qualify. It's not just, you know, growing corn and having a maize. It includes, you know, the selling of products and that go beyond just growing crops, which could fall under it to establish that use.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Lisa?
No, I think that's about it. I just, I think you want to consider the 30 acres if you're going to separate that agricultural use out. 30 acres for a property, they have to be able to use their property if it's just an event barn facility with no growing or agricultural use of the property.
Okay.
Lisa, I'm not tracking with you. They have to be able to use the property for what if they're not going to grow pumpkins?
Well, for any kind of permitted R1 residential purposes. So maybe there's, you know, separate locations on the site for pictures, or maybe for a smaller wedding where the wedding could take place next to a stream and then they go back to the main facility. But what you can't do, or what I encourage you not to do, is say you've got this event barn building and then the rest of the property, the rest of 30 acres, sorry, you can't use that. So there's got to be a way for the property owner to have, you know, use of their property.
So if I understand it, if we did it the way our ordinance already says, they have to actually be farming it, like you said, a vineyard, a cider mill, something of that nature. Otherwise, their whole parcel, they could use it for different events on the property. So that would put them closer to the residential neighbor. I'm also not understanding exactly.
Chris, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think that what Lisa is trying to say, though I don't want to assume too much, is that if you guys decide not to roll it into the agritourism, if you say we have a new use, it is event barns. Under that scenario, 30 acres for just event barn would be somewhat restrictive and maybe too big for just that little use. But if it is something that you roll into the agritourism use and they can grow crops on their land and do pumpkin patches and, you know, whatever kind of agritourism uses, that size requirement is much more appropriate because they can make better use of the large piece of land that they need.
So Chris, basically what it means is now they have two revenue streams. I mean, one is from the agritourism and the other is the event barn. I mean, that's how I understand it.
I think that's what Lisa is trying to say. That's how I understood it.
Essentially, for an agritourism use, yes, the agritourism use kind of helps supplement the agricultural property so they can continue to farm or
Right.
use their property.
Lisa, does agritourism include animals?
No, not necessarily. I think you could probably allow it to, but I mean, we could certainly write that out and make sure it doesn't include that. I think there'd have to be some adjustments and modifications to your current ordinance if you wanted to allow the agritourism use, and that can certainly be addressed at that time.
Mr. Conflitti?
Yes.
It was mentioned that in the R10 district, if we start leaning towards a commercial entity, that could be a problem, right? If the event barn what if they only have the event barn on 30 acres?
Right.
Commercial.
That's really kind of, we're getting in a delicate. Lisa, didn't you state that early? Or Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts to become a little bit of a gray area. Certainly if you call it a barn and it looks like a barn and it's something that you would maybe normally see on a farm, then maybe it makes some sense. But if you start talking about a brand new event facility, it does start to cross into a gray area.
Kurt, you make a good example is 3-seaters. I mean, how would that fall? Have you been there, Lisa? 3-seaters? And was that 6 Mile? I think it's 6 Mile.
Yeah, I haven't been there, so I don't know exactly what the zoning is, but I do say, in looking at these, I'd say that the vast majority of these are agricultural property done as the agritourism type use. Brighton Township was really the one different ordinance that I found.
Yeah, 3-seaters runs a general store. They have small facilities for parties. They have a facility
Cider.
for 200 people. They make donuts. They have cider, hay rides, corn maze. So those types of things is what goes on there. I don't know how big the property is, but those are the events. And of course, he lives there.
Carl, you've been quiet.
Yeah, I'm just listening. I mean, I get what Lisa's saying. This was brought forward as a separate entity. We've been looking at it as a separate entity. The property still could be used. As it was stated in the McKenna letter, allowed the driveway to go in on one of the far ends of the property. The outdoor ceremony, gazebo or a graduation, having 700 people out there for a graduation. Those are some of the things that we have to look at, whether you do want to separate them or let them use their 30 acres. The issue I have with the agritourism is that it turns into a year-round entity and would be a lot harder to police, such as Irwin Orchards. Irwin Orchard shuts down after 4 months. So everybody over there gets, including me, I have to drive by there too, gets a reprieve for quite a while. And I think it's a wonderful operation. I love the orchard, don't get me wrong. But I think the agritourism is good for the property owner. But I just think that these two should be separate entities. That's my opinion.
You're saying, Carl, more commercial?
Right.
You're putting commercial and residential. I
No.
like the agritourism.
No, No, I didn't say that.
No, then
It would be a special land use. Agritourism would not be a special land use. I guess you could probably make it one. I just think we either do one or the other. I mean, we already have agritourism. I mean, you could always bring that forward with a change in the zoning on the agritourism. But the way we started off on this was separate, not agritourism. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, as the property requirements got larger, it only makes sense for if someone's going to do business, they're going to have more than just a barn on 30 acres. Well, Patricia, what are you thinking? I know you were a big advocate of this from the beginning.
I would only let it be agritourism. That's the only way for me personally, because you're putting, I know, Carl, we went crazy over just the little teeny wine thing in a residential area. And now you're talking 30 acres in a barn and music and allowing a party every single night. I don't see that. I mean, I'd rather be like a Irwin's where they could have it, if they could have it. They don't have enough property, but actually they do. But you got to realize I live with Irwin's, 4 months, well, not quite 4 months out of the year. I mean, it's difficult. And when they had the haunted forest, I could hear it all the time. I didn't complain because I'm not that kind of a complainer, but I know people did complain. I know we've had people call the township hall because the cars are too close to the road. When they park all over the place, when it gets so packed, and they had their little bouncy houses right next to the road. You cannot believe how many people we got complaints about that. If somebody drove off the road, they'd run right into those bouncy houses. We get a lot of complaints that people wouldn't maybe think about. So I just think we're very populated here now. We're not like we are like up north where you don't have a lot of population. So if you're going to just have an event barn on 30 acres, they're going to want a lot more than that. I agree with Lisa. You can't tell them you can just have this barn and nothing else on 30 acres. So that means they're going to use the whole property as some kind of commercial venue in between all these other homes. I mean, look at the map. There's really not too much left for us. So I worry more that at least if you're a farmer or you're farming your property like a Three Cedars or like an Irwin orchard, at least they're, I don't know what you can do all year long. Irwin's is because they are an apple orchard, but I think Three Cedars, I think they're only opened at the fall, and I think they have some Christmas things too there. I believe, I could be wrong, but I worry about it because we get complaints about everything. If you guys were us at the hall, you'd understand. I mean, we get constant complaints about D&D acres, constant. So that's 10 acres right there, and that's a dog kennel. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to live by it. I'm just telling you, I wouldn't want to live by an event barn. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. So.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Lisa, were you gonna bring to the board some of the challenges and issues that other communities, their biggest complaints? Is it noise from the music? Is it traffic? Did you get a chance to guys research at all what the big issues are?
I did. I called in a number of communities and spoke to the planning departments, probably 6 or 7 communities. And to be honest with you, nobody really had any complaints to share other than one community who said they have a resident or a few residents who complain about noise from music. When you look at the case law, There's been really 3 cases that have had published opinions, and so those are cases that I can take a look at and find relatively easily. Each of those 3 cases, there were resident complaints, and that was noise, traffic, lights, drunkenness, trespassing on the property. Some of those lawsuits involved some pretty substantial citizen involvement in trying to fight the event barns. But, those are 3 cases out of, however many event barns we have across the state. So the communities that I spoke to didn't say that they were having significant problems, but there have certainly been published opinions where residents have had significant amount of complaints. So, and I think you have to keep in mind, like I said, the purpose of the residential agricultural district.
Thank you.
So, Chris, would you say we have 2 options on this?
Well,
If you were to narrow it down or not?
I think that you could move. Yeah, I think you could move forward as a separate use, and I think that Lisa has kind of outlined some challenges with that, and you could move forward with it as a secondary use to the agritourism. And I just listening to Patty's concerns. I haven't been involved in your other discussions. I haven't been here for the past few meetings, but is the commission certain that permitting this type of use is something that it wants to recommend?
Well, if we were to come at it, what's best for the township? What's everyone's first thought?
You do have another option, and I spoke briefly to Brian about it. It's maybe there's a different zoning district where this might be more appropriate, where they can have, still a fair amount of property, but maybe it's more of a transitional use. So I don't know if that type of parcel is available in the township, but that is maybe a third option.
So what would the zoning be for a parcel like that? Like what area?
I guess it depends, commercial, industrial, it depends on where that property would be available. Chris might know more about that.
So actually, and I'm sorry, thank you for bringing it up, because Brian did discuss this with me once today and brought up a specific parcel. So I'm going to share my screen again, if that's okay. So if I'm not mistaken, where my cursor is immediately below where the Wallbridge property is. And so it's a significant piece of land that is going to be adjacent to industrial uses. And so he specifically talked about it being a transitional use in this area from the heavier industrial uses towards the residential and rural character to the south. If that is something you as a commissioner interested in, we could explore, more in detail about how many properties there might actually be like this, and if a different zoning category is appropriate, or keeping the R10 but requiring it to be a transitional area for more intense uses. I think that's certainly something we could explore.
Well, it doesn't sound like we're ready to make a recommendation tonight. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a comment, Mike, if I may.
Please. Yeah.
So, I believe that the reason why I stand the way I stand is because I believe we were charged with guidelines, setting up guidelines. And I still feel that that's what we're charged with, because it's the applicant's request that's paying for it. And so that's why I stand pat on what I said. But you asked a specific question, and my answer to your specific question would be, I think we already have the guidelines set for the agritourism, and I'm not necessarily, I mean, I'm the one to tell you that I think it's ridiculous that it goes on all week long. And but being charged with doing your duty to, as a planning commissioner, to set these guidelines, that's what you have to do, is set the guidelines as if it was going to be in a residential area. And that's why there's the 30 acres. That's why it's the 300-foot setback. But in my own personal opinion, I don't want to see it, because I don't want to see it in my neighborhood, just like nobody else here wants to see it in their neighborhood. Kurt doesn't want to see it on 9 Mile, that's paved. I'm sorry, on Napier, that's paved. Do you want to see it over there, Kurt?
You know, I'll be honest, Carl, I didn't, if it's, I like the idea. I don't want to hear heavy metal music at 1 a.m, but I don't, weddings, I like the idea. There's a parcel just east of me on the corner of Napier 9. If it was done right, I thought it was, maybe if it's across the street, that's a different thing, but it's, you know, it's a quarter mile down the road. But I think, I hear what you're saying, Carl. As I think about this, I think maybe our township is too built up. The next township west of us, where it's still close enough, everybody can get there for their parties or whatever, but it maybe needs to be a little more rural. Yeah, you don't want to drop this right in the middle of a bunch of subs. I don't think they would want it in the middle of subs. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm on the fence with it, but I get point well made.
Mr. Chuck, you're muted, big guy.
Yeah,
There you go.
we're not ready. However, I like what I heard at the very end, possibly a transitional area. We already realized we couldn't do 20. We've got to have a minimum of 30. Now, having said that, getting back to the agritourism, you know, if we told an applicant you can put a barn there or assembly hall, whatever we want to call it, we're probably setting them up for failure. However, if they could have ancillary or other ways of deriving revenue, you know, I could see that happening. So I agree with the residents, but I also would think if they want to take this further, there's got to be a piece of property. And again, I like that term transitional. I think I know exactly where Chris was referring to. So not a dead issue, but as it sits right now, yeah, we're not ready. So that's my comments.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, then if this was to be tabled again, Chris, would you maybe come back? I don't think there's too many transitional pieces of property out there. I think everyone would be more warm to that idea.
Yeah, I think it's certainly something that we could come back to you with and see how many of those pieces of land we actually find that meet the criteria of the size and being a transitional piece of land, and show you guys what we found in a similar map to what Brian created for you tonight.
Which was very good. Make sure I mean, that was very educational. I'm glad he put that together. I'm prepared to make a motion to table it. However, I do not have the agenda in front of me. So AP what?
20-04.
Thank you, Mike.
Event barn text amendment.
I'll make a motion 20-04, event barn be tabled. Motion to table.
Or
Who is that? Kurt?
Yes, sir.
Support? Okay. Motion support to table. Okay. Kelly, if you take roll.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Patricia Carconi,
Yes.
Carl Town,
Yes.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Michael Confetti.
Yes. All right. Okay. New business, AP 20-35, Lion Station PD, extension of approval. Chris?
Thank you. So in this item, Hutto Family LLC is requesting extension of a previously granted preliminary PD approval for the Lion Station project, which was granted by the Township Board on September 4th, 2018. Section 704 of the zoning ordinance states that approval is valid for 2 years from the date that it was approved, that September 18, 2018 meeting, and that a 12-month extension can be considered by the Planning Commission if the request is submitted prior to the expiration. We understand from the applicant that the original development team that pursued the project through preliminary approval has distanced itself from the project, and Hutto Family LLC group wishes to pick up the project and see it through to completion. As part of taking over the project, all CAD files of the preliminary plans will be provided to the Hutto family, which means the basis of design for the final PD plans can be reasonably prepared based on the previously approved plans. And we just want to note that the application for extension was submitted on September 2nd of this year. And so just in time to be considered for that extension. Section 704 provides a list of potential evidence that there has been substantial progress towards the final PD approval, including securing financing, presentation of a timetable for submittal of an application for final plan development approval, among other things. So this list is for what should be considered for approval of the extension. It is our understanding that significant progress has not been made to date. However, with a new development group picking up where the previous group left off, we do recommend that the applicant be prepared to present to the Planning Commission a proposed schedule for seeking final approval so that the Planning Commission can feel reasonably comfortable that the project will move forward in the 12-month timeframe of the extension. We also think it's important to consider, when considering an extension, what are the conditions of the surrounding property. There have not been unforeseen changes to the surrounding properties or general area of the township since the preliminary approval was granted. Haas and Cleaver Farms and estates in Huntsville were in progress when Lion Station was originally considered, and they are moving forward successfully. We are not aware of changes to land use or developments in the area which the Lion Station project would negatively impact. We are generally supportive of the request to extend the validity period for the Lion Station project for 12 months. It is apparent that outside conditions have not changed substantially and nearby residential projects continue to be successful. We highly recommend that the applicant produce an anticipated approval schedule to illustrate that the final PD approval could be reasonably achieved within the 12-month extension period. And if that schedule is satisfactory to the Planning Commission, we believe it appropriate to approve the extension request. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. Things like traffic studies, and will these all have to be redone? Wetlands and studies and that type of thing? Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
No, I don't know if Chris.
Oh,
sorry, I was muted. My apologies.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead, Chris, if you'd like.
Yeah, so basically it would be treated the same way that all other PDs would be treated. I don't have the final PD list in front of me, but if it is typically required in the final preliminary or final plans, it would be required now. There'd be essentially extension would allow this PD to be treated as a normal PD and moving through the process without the extension. So no more or less would be required of them than typical PD.
All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, first of all, Chris, I like the idea of the timetable put in there. And, you know, as I read through this, the previous, I guess, developers walked away. I mean, I think the Huttos deserve a chance to finish this off. They did get the extension off in time, and quite frankly, I see no reason why I'm speaking on my behalf, why I wouldn't or we wouldn't grant it. So I'm comfortable with it based on the way you presented it, Chris, moving forward.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else?
I have no problem with it. We've extended a lot of site plans recently, all the ones down by 8 Mile and Napier. So I have no problem. The ownership does not bother me at all. And I agree with Jim. I mean, that's disappointing that Rick had to walk away, but it's not fair to the Huttos. So I have no problem with the extension.
Mr. T.
I have not been, since I've been on the planning commission, we've always approved a 1-year extension.
Yeah. Okay. Kurt, anything?
Must be
Kurt
me.
Radke. All right.
He doesn't realize he's muted.
Well, he'll have a chance to speak. I'm ready to make a motion.
All right.
AP-20-35 be moved forward based on the information in the letter presented by McKenna, dated, somebody help me out, please.
September 24th.
Thank you, September
Very good.
24th. We recommend the extension as presented.
I support. Mr. Chuck, I was trying to make that recommendation, but I was on mute, just for the record.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll
Very
give it to you.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Chuck, support by Mr. Town. Any other comments? Kelly, take roll, please. Uh-oh. We need to hold up a sign that says unmute.
Hello, Cal.
Kelly,
Kelly,
hello.
Anybody got her phone number?
I'm here. Sorry.
Okay.
I
All right.
thought Kurt was muted and it was me.
Uh,
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Carl Town,
Yes,
Michael Conflitti,
yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Patricia Carconi.
yes.
All right. Very good. Patricia, did you have anything for us?
If you guys want to stay a minute after, I can,
Thank you, everybody.
I can stay. I can let you know about Stefan if you want to stay a minute.
Off the record, you mean after we close? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll support that. Motion to adjourn.
I'll support that.
All right. Kelly,
Patricia Carconi,
Yes.
Jim Chuck,
Yes.
Michael Conflitti,
yes.
Kurt Radke,
Yes.
Carl.
yes.
Came
All right.
pretty close, Mr. Chairman.
You did.
Plus or
I-
minus.